Jack. All right. You got the stuff?
Yeah. All cleaned in oil.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's get it on.
Who are these guys?
It's my theme music. Every good hero should have some.
Hot damn, it's time to get down to the jam. It's time to get down, it's time to get down, it's time to get down to the jam. I said it's time to get down to the knowledge, gonna get on down with the know. On the morning coffee show, on morning coffee with Keith, here on Pop Culture Minefield.
Excuse me, can I get a cup of coffee? Black?
Can't you see we talking?
White?
Oh, wow. So it began on a Thursday, January 1st, 1970. Little did anyone know, as we finished off the 60s, how interesting this decade was going to become, especially for those that are fans of science fiction, fantasy, you know, the true heart of the pop culture revolution, the evolution of the revolution, as I'd like to say. And wow. Hey, it's Courtney and our Fellowship of Oddballs. Hello, 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 hello. And hello to Martin and Ben. Thanks for joining me, gentlemen.
Oh, I wouldn't miss this for anything.
Oh, wait, now I've done it. I said good morning. Now the pressure's on.
Yes, that makes it official. You're awake now.
Yeah, now you have to have a good morning.
And look, Penny is here. Hello, Penny, the lovely, the incredible Penny. Oh, wow. And I think today's show is definitely going to be something that a few of us will have had some personal experience with. So, on behalf of myself, Courtney and Penny, you guys pay attention. You're about to learn a few things, because obviously you both are way too young to have had any personal knowledge about what we're about to talk about. And from the way things go online, there's quite a few people that really don't know what they're talking about when it comes to this decade.
Yeah.
There's just so much. There's just so much. Well, of course, look a day over 22, Courtney. Okay, so here we go. First and foremost, I'd like to say that I'd like to at least put a little bit of a disclaimer for those a little too young. You need to understand this is a different time period, different way of doing things.
Before the Empire.
Way before the Empire. Parents had a different way of raising kids. You are in the heart of Gen X right here.
Mm-hmm.
And we did not suffer the weak.
Well, the 70s were so completely different. There were things you saw and didn't see in the 70s.
Yeah.
I mean, you would see advertisements on TV for tobacco and liquor and beer,
Yeah.
and I mean, you would see people smoking in restaurants.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole culture around it.
Kids could go to school,
mm-hmm.
and with the help of their teachers, make something in art class or something and bring it home, and it basically be an ashtray.
Oh yeah.
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 I did an ashtray for my dad.
See?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and bear in mind, I mean, things were so different then. Minimum wage was $1.60 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and gas prices were under 50 cents.
Now, it being 1970, I mean, we are fast approaching
mm-hmm.
A major event that will help to also shape the decade.
Mm-hmm.
The gas crisis, because
mm-hmm.
many of you may not remember. Well, many of you may not even have known that going places to be able to put gas in your vehicle was a big deal for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And people used to get stuck in line waiting to pump gas.
Yeah. Was that him, what, 72, 73?
Yeah, right around there. So that's pretty much the heart of this portion. Now, as I'm saying to the guys, we're not going to try to do all of the 1970s with this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? What we're going to try to do is present you with some of the highlights of what this portion of this decade is like.
Mm-hmm.
We're only going to cover from 1970 to 1976. And I know, it's like, well, that's not exactly an even split. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just because 1977 to 1979, there's a lot of stuff packed in.
Right. Oh, yeah.
You know. It's Anima. Hello, Anima. The incredible Anima. Lovely, well-spoken. She's awesome. She is awesome. I will say this, though. It's Courtney saying, for me, the 80s, gas was 99 cents and cigarettes were $1.59 or 99.6 for Jacks. And my first job at age 14 at Wawa paid $3.75. Wow. Well, these are the 70s. Oh, you were born in 78? Okay. These are the 70s, okay? It's a little rougher.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no. And looking at the pop culture, landscape from that time, what we're coming in with, I'm sure you've covered up to this, right?
Well, I only covered last episode. I only did it right up and finished off with 1969. So we're coming in fresh to 1970. So 1970. What's the best way to think about that? Okay, 1970. There are a few things that are continuing on from the 60s. Okay, so you have the Brady Bunch is continuing on, and it's also in syndication. So it is conceivable for you to be able to come home from school, watch an episode of the Brady Bunch in syndication, and then later on in the evening, turn on the Brady Bunch for a brand new episode on network TV. Let's see. Casey Kasem was already on the radio by then.
Right. Oh, and see, that's another thing that was so completely different between then and now. You had to watch at certain times. You could not, you could not come back and watch it later on. VCRs were not uncommon in homes. If you didn't see it when it came on, you missed it, and you had to listen to everybody else tell you about it.
Oh, it's not just that. It's also music. If you had a favorite song,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you had certain choices. You could either go spend your hard-earned money,
Mm-hmm.
go to the mall or your favorite record shop and pick up either a 45 of the single and
Mm-hmm.
or the entire album itself.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We were in the middle of, I think the newest piece of technology was the 8-track tape.
Yeah.
8 tracks. Wow, that really does take
God.
Oh.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, because and the fun thing about 8 tracks was you could switch tracks in the middle.
Yeah.
But you had to time it right, or you'd miss the being in the song. I remember having the soundtrack from Saturday Night Live at one point. The Eagles, I think it was the Best of or Long Run, I can't remember. And Elton John at one point.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah. And the other thing about record players at the time, of course, that's since they're coming back, it's not so uncommon. Was the speed you played it at.
Yes. Yes. What the?
What am I missing?
Okay, now you're gonna make me say something. First, let me read this from Courtney. Can relate to the music thing. Her mom was a Rubik's teacher in the 80s, and they used to go to Sam Goody every Saturday to buy brand new 45s and put them on cassette tapes for her routines. That's fantastic. You guys must have had a lot of 45s.
Oh man, yeah, that sounds like just so cool, so much fun.
Yeah.
And aerobics teacher is an aerobics teacher, not a Rubik's teacher.
Oh, sorry.
No. It's she corrected it in the chat. I was going, oh, now that makes sense.
Yeah, now that makes sense.
I was like,
oh, here we go. Hey, G. Yeah, I would talk about something that happened in 71, but I can't remember what that was. It'll come to me. Anyway.
And in television, 90s, yeah, Courtney, yeah.
Well,
yeah, I remember that.
1970, that was, if I remember correctly, 1970 was also the year that the book MASH was turned into a movie. But there was no television series yet. The MASH series was not on the air yet.
Yeah, MASH didn't come out. Oh God, because I remember watching MASH. I remember watching MASH all the way up to the last episode.
See, that's the way a lot of people are. They always talk about it in the sense of, well, MASH. I didn't know MASH until they always talk about it from the angle of the series, and they forget that it's a book and a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
A really popular book and movie.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, G. Yeah, we're going to play that one. Okay. Yeah, it was good for a moment there.
So, yeah, because in MASH, and the pipeline from book to movie then, I mean, what MASH came out in 68, the book came out in 68. Hit movie theaters in 70, you said, right?
Yeah.
And then came on TV in 72.
Yep.
And so that's a 4-year time frame, which for that time was pretty darn good.
Yes. But I will say this, and I've said it before in other shows.
Mm-hmm.
And in case you never heard me say this, I'm about to say something that's kind of controversial, but when I haven't. I was not a big fan of the television series. I didn't hate it, but I was not as big of a fan. Okay. Mainly because I read the book.
Right, and there's some differences.
I can understand why the author did not like the TV show.
Right.
They made changes. There were a lot of changes that were made in order to get it on TV. A lot of compromises had to be made.
Right.
And
see,
go ahead.
And here's the thing: is I did not enjoy the movie that much because it was of course at the time that sort of theme, that sort of feel was very prevalent. And I wasn't really a big fan of Donald Sutherland. Of course, I was like 3 when that came out. But
well, I will say this. I've said this before, and I'm looking right at you, Amazon, because you could do this. I've always said that what they could probably do if they're always looking for something new is to do something that they never did for the television series, which is go ahead and adapt all the books and do it that way, because there are stuff that the first 2 to 3 episodes of the MASH TV series were an attempt to entertain and bring in fans of the movie and the books.
Right.
As soon as they got what they wanted, as soon as you got to episode 4, mysteriously all that stuff pretty much disappeared.
Right.
MASH, the real MASH, Richard Hooker's MASH, is about a group of characters that all represent different places, different societies around the world. When they made the television series, in order to get the southern states to carry the show, they had to back up off of all of the extreme liberal stuff they put in it, including all the various race and other groups that they put on in both that were written into the book and into the movie.
Right.
So they got rid of a lot of characters, including Spearchucker Jones, no longer on the show. They got rid of the Painless Pole, who, if you read the book and you watch the movie, an essential character, but got rid of him. You got rid of really a lot of the international flavor of the story. And what you got was pretty much what you had until the show went off the air. And again, I know that there are people that are fans of that stuff, but for me, MASH was really kind of like, it's basically what they did was they took Star Trek and they basically made it an all-white TV show. So they got rid of Sulu, they got rid of Chekhov, they got rid of Uhura. They left Mr. Spock because, Token. And they decided to just, and that's exactly what they did with MASH. Now, I know over the years, people have tried to argue different things with me, but that's up until they actually read the book and they go back and watch the movie. And then they realize what had been done. Now, I will always say that MASH is one of the best written shows in the history of TV, but they had to make a devil's bargain in order to get that show on the air.
This is true because back then you still had to cater to the southern states, and I mean, growing up in that era, oh God, because you and I would have had very separate. I mean, you and I would, and still do, have very very separate experiences in the same place. Because I'm a white dude, and I don't run into the same things that a lot of my black friends do. And I say this because my granddaughter is mixed, and even when she is with me, she will have a very different experience until if it's just her, until I show up. So and because I grew up with casual racism. Oh my! Well, it was. So a little background. My first dad was in the Air Force, and when so and I grew up partly in California, a lot of time in Texas. And I would hear so much racial, just vitriol and, and casual humor. Misogyny was casual and accepted, And so, yeah, I can see where MASH would have been a very different experience, to different people,
Well, but here's the other thing about MASH, and this is one of the things that was really helpful when I read it in college again.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't just about race; it's also about class.
Yes.
And one of the things that in college I really did not like about the TV show was how much of a change they made to Hawkeye.
Yeah. Okay.
They made a lot of changes to that character. Basically, the way that character was on TV, they basically took the character of Trapper John and named him Hawkeye, is really what they did. Because Hawkeye is the way Donald Sutherland played him in the movie is basically what the character is. He's not much of a talker. He is the Dr. Watson to the Sherlock that is Trapper John. He is the one for whom the book is told from Hawkeye's point of view, but you can tell Hawkeye's the one that's writing the whole thing.
Right.
And one of the big changes is that for the television series, because of the way they decided to pursue the show, the biggest change they made is they got rid of Hawkeye's wife and kids.
See, yeah, and I had never had a chance to read the book. Super strict Southern Baptist parents,
Yeah, and the other thing is, Trapper John and Hawkeye knew each other from before. They had met one another, but because of their experiences from their hometown, because they're both in New England,
right?
Hawkeye is from the wrong side of the tracks. His family are all fishermen, and Trapper's family are all wealthy, rich.
Yeah.
I mean, he grew up rich,
right?
And so part of the thing about them being best friends, in and of itself, is kind of different, in so much as that you have two guys who met each other briefly, only to reunite in Korea and realize that they have a lot more in common, and that both of them have this need to rebel and fight against the higher powers that are running the war, and decide to combine their forces to do that. And I've always loved that. I always loved whenever they would become the men from Dover. And and that's kind of like what the television series kind of tried to do that, but they, again, it's, as you were saying earlier, they had to cater to a lot of the southern states, so they had to get rid of a lot of plots and plot lines that were obvious, stuff that had been brought up within the book. But one of the things that I really enjoyed was the fact that Hawkeye was a very welcoming guy. If you were someone that was a bit of an outsider, Hawkeye was very welcoming, and so was Trapper. Trapper was somebody that you could tell he liked everybody,
right? And
he could either be the center of attention, or if he's not the center of attention, that means he's probably off in the corner with the hottest girl. And I like the fact that you have these two gentlemen who are just such different backgrounds, and yet they're so similar in what they want to accomplish. and they find different ways of accomplishing those things that are a little bit outside the norm, but they do it for the express purpose of accomplishing, of doing the right thing. They have no fear of being as outrageous as possible as long as it's able to accomplish the right thing.
Right.
And that's what I really enjoyed about those guys. And again, it's not to say that you couldn't do that on the TV series.
Right.
But the character of Duke, played by Tom
Skerritt?
Tom Skerritt. The character of Duke in the film, and this is the strange thing about the about the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that you learn from the book and the film is that Tom Skerritt's character had to be altered for TV. Is a racist.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I can see how allowing him onto the television series, but taking that part of the character away was one of the things they had to do in order to get the show, shown.
Right.
And still allowing Duke to be, not only on the show, but in a complete reversal from the story in the book and the movie, allowing him back into the swamp.
Right.
After having been kicked out once Trapper and Hawkeye figured out what he was.
Right.
They didn't want anything to do with him. And that for me was a major lesson about the inner workings of Hollywood and how, you have to make deals to change and alter things. And again, I love Tom Skerritt as an actor, but yeah, you're made to like Duke right up until you find out, so he's got a problem with people that look like me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and the other thing, I was just looking up some stuff about the movie. Rene Auberjonois.
Yes.
Was Father Mulcahy.
Yes.
Yes. I mean,
well, but the Father Mulcahy, all the characters were different in the book and the movie.
In the movie. Yeah, absolutely.
Show. They wrote them different on the TV show. Father Mulcahy is, he is the Irish priest.
Right.
And he is someone who, I will say this on behalf of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of it was stereotypical, but it was done to be part of the outrageousness of the movie. It was meant to be a comedy.
Oh, yeah.
And so you would have a lot of characters who were meant to just represent different groups, different ideologies.
Yeah.
In having, for instance, like the character of Frank Burns.
Mm-hmm.
A completely different character in the book and in the movie than he was on the television series.
Right.
Frank Burns is an idiot on the TV show.
Yeah.
In the book and the movie, he's a dedicated religious guy.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a difference.
Yeah, because you really couldn't make too much fun of religion in the in the 70s.
Yeah, and again, it's to me, the film itself had a lot of really cool cameo appearances, something that they kept up with on the television show. Right. But I still say, if you can get Johnny Unitas to be in your movie,
right?
Which he was.
Yeah.
They had quite a few football players make cameo appearances. Real NFL football players made appearances in the film version, along with Sylvester Stallone, who made a cameo. And I think it's Bobby Troop, who's also in it. His was a cameo appearance. And oh man, I know that Robert. Oh no, Robert Duvall is actually he plays one of the main
plays
both main
Burns.
characters. Yeah, he plays Burns.
Yeah.
And that's pre-Godfather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, here we go. I'm gonna get it now. Let's see. James says, so Keith, just to get down to it, what do you think? It would really take the relaunch, reboot, MASH, and I'm starting from the standpoint of Kiefer Sutherland possibly spearheading this effort. I think Kiefer would be a little old to play the part that his father did. You're still talking some youngish characters. One of the things that the TV show also changed was the amount of time that the doctors were over there. Both the book and the movie, at the end of it, Hawkeye goes back home.
Yeah, it's Hawkeye and Duke, right?
Duke. Yeah.
Well, and the thing about Burns, that in every analysis I'm reading, is that Burns was not entirely competent, but he thought he suffered from Dunning-Kruger, because he thought his surgical skills were infallible, which led to the death of a soldier. But he was in the book, and I'm presuming in the movie, he was more of the guy that thought, well, they sent me here, they must be right about how good I am. And he wasn't competent. And
Eastland. No. You completely get this wrong. When you are dealing with something that's already been adapted, you're not remaking anything. It's just a different interpretation. Okay, you can do another version of MASH because it's a book.
Mm-hmm.
You can do as many different versions. You may not do it the same exact way. And again, we're talking the Vietnam War is really a heavy sort of imprint on both the movie and the television series.
Right. Even though the series and the movie take place during Korea, it is a stand-in for Vietnam.
That's right. So if you were to do it appropriately for the time period, it changes a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And so
if you were to do it for now, completely different.
It's a completely different thing. And that can be said by about a lot of different films that were a part of everything that we had in the 70s. I mean, we're beginning. You could say that we kind of sort of began the decade with a sequel to a movie that was really wildly successful.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Beneath the Planet of the Apes came out. And that was a film that caught a lot of people off guard. And just to be fair, just like I always say about the Bourne adaptations, with the exception of the first book, all the others seem to have next to nothing to do with the books that they take their names from.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't have to worry about that from the Planet of the Apes because none of the movies adapt the stories. It's a completely different thing. And I get why they made the change that they did, but it didn't stop them from hiring Rod Serling, who actually did too good of a job in adapting the book. And then they proceeded to take his script and do something different with it.
Right. Well, and the thing about, if you were to try, someone mentioned about trying to redo MASH now, you would have to do it as an allegory of the Gulf War. The themes would be completely different.
Well, you could either do it as that, or you could just do it You could make it about Korea. You could do it as a period piece, and look at society the same way, you know, we would look at society. Well, it's like people now looking at something like Back to the Future in the way that it looked at 50s society.
Yeah.
Or how people watching that now even look at the 80s. You know?
Right. Oh, absolutely.
It's a snapshot.
Right.
But you're able to tell some very important stories and lessons for characters. And again, something that we've lost since then is the feeling that, you know, in the end, we're all in this together. And it doesn't matter what your racial background, sexual orientation, nor even how much money you make. You know, that's important to understand. That was one of the major points of MASH, the book, which is all these characters are just people. They just happen to be from different places. Right. And that when you find yourself in a situation where you are governed by certain rules, does that mean that you can no longer be, that you basically have to put aside what you truly believe in order to do what needs to be done? Or will you always follow your moral compass to do the right thing despite any orders that you've been given? You know,
well, and I think that was one of the things that MASH kind of looked at, is taking what you knew, what you thought was right, and having to adapt it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what is truly right compared to, you know, because that's character growth. But But I mean, and MASH is like just like the beginning of that 70s era. But at the time, you know, we had so much that was not, you know, that was coming about, because that was, like we were talking about earlier, that was when we were starting to get some of the, you know, some of the cons in sci-fi. What Doctor Who was, you know, after Star Trek was one of the bigger ones. It was still out there, was still running.
Yes. I mean, everything was different. You got to understand, the entertainment industry was changing. 1970, the Hollywood system in and of itself was done. You know, we weren't making movies the same way anymore. What you had was an entire generation, a new generation of filmmakers that were making their way to Hollywood and influencing Hollywood's way of making movies, finding inspiration and influence really from filmmakers outside the United States. A little bit of that French New Wave and documentary style of filmmaking all played a part. That also gave us the Banditos, which are a group of college students who got together to basically change entertainment. And when you Google who they are, you realize, oh my goodness, this is the virtual who's who of talent and people who have gone on to win Academy Awards or have made films that have moved people around the world. You know, Coppola led that group with George Lucas and let's see, who else was a part of it? It was geez, I'm having to reach back in my memory and try to remember. They took a famous picture on top of one of the buildings of all of them dressed in Banditos garb, and they are a motley crew, but it's what they ended up doing when they were given the opportunity to do what they felt would be really entertaining. 1970, so we're still, you know, Coppola still has The Godfather coming.
Mm-hmm.
He still has. One person you will not see in that picture is Steven Spielberg, because he went to a different school. He didn't go to USC like everybody in the picture. He went to a different school, and he was younger than everybody else. But all those guys would end up changing Hollywood. I think one of the other people in that picture is Caleb Deschanel, who is a famous cinematographer. You know his daughters, who became actresses.
Right? Zoe and on Bones. God. Why can I not remember?
Oh, thank you, Courtney. Thank you very much. But no, again, as I was saying earlier, as far as fandom goes, I mean, the big one was starting with Beneath the Planet of the Apes. You had to have known that this sequel was going to happen after how successful the Planet of the Apes was.
Right.
James Franciscus, who was one of my favorite actors when I was a little kid, leading this cast, and it came out May 26, 1970. And it had a budget of $2.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back when you could do a whole lot with just $2.5 million.
Oh yeah.
But this, I think, was also the start of you're also in the middle of Charlton Heston's big kind of sci-fi, science fiction type message movies. You know, for my money, this is another example of how influential Rod Serling was. When you get to a point when you start making pure science fiction as movies, and it just, a lot of what Hollywood was producing just seemed like longer episodes of Twilight Zone. I mean that in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Twilight Zone was just, it was that influential of a show. And you've got people wanting to do science fiction and not sci-fi. You know, sci-fi is Hollywood's interpretation of science fiction, but not as serious.
Yeah.
You know, it's ray guns and robots and women screaming.
And shirts getting torn.
Yes. Science fiction, though, is telling solid stories, usually a lot of allegory and social commentary and characters that are facing great moral dilemmas and decisions in circumstances that are just so incredibly wild, you know. This is one of the. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, because science fiction it isn't about the spectacle. It's about it's about almost you'd almost say it's man versus progress or man versus technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, there was some science fiction that, of course, reflected the thinking of the day. I think it was a story called Cold Equations. I think that's the one with the dude who is in a spaceship and has a stowaway, and because of the weight and everything, he has to basically eject this girl who had basically put her out and shove her out the airlock in order to make it. And when you read that and you look at it, you're going, that's not actually science-y fiction. It's one of the, because they have the tolerances so tight that there's absolutely no room for error. And I'm going, have you seen how NASA worked? you know, you know, it's like redundancies upon redundancies with a couple of redundancies to check that, and it's like, no, this is someone trying to justify that, tried to justify being an asshole. So science fiction was a double-edged sword, and because it could also be used to advance, certain other things, really not very progressive or evolved, points of view. Under the guise of science fiction, which is why there are certain things I never did like, which is why I did like Star Trek.
Well, and again, it's for my money, what Roddenberry did in hiring and getting all the writers that he did for that show. People need to really come to grips with the fact that he didn't just tell a bunch of people, let's just write shows about these ship in space and all these characters. That isn't what he was doing.
Right.
He was trying to create science fiction. And the people that he hired, I always say about Star Trek, look at those writers. Look at every single one of the people. Google their names individually and look at their careers. These are people whom some of them would, in their careers, would go on to win some of the biggest awards given for science fiction. Some of them would win all kinds of writing awards, all kinds of publishing awards. Many of them would go on to win all kinds of recognition, or go on to sell, win awards just for selling multiple, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of copies of whatever they've done. And for a rare number of them would be named, would find themselves named grandmasters of the genre, which is a high honor. It's not seen as much nowadays, and I wish we would get back to that, because really celebrating the ability to be able to write and touch so many people and to affect change with your words should be celebrated.
Oh yeah. I mean, we've got like DC Fontana is the first one that comes to mind. And she
started out as Roddenberry's secretary, but would grow to prominence because she was reading all this stuff before she would pass stuff on to Roddenberry. Yeah, and she'd have to read it, and she got good at figuring out what was good and what wasn't. For me, though, the name that really was Star Trek, the name that really was important, was Gene L. Coon, because Gene L. Coon came up with many of the things that would become definitive parts of Star Trek. He came up with the Klingons. And he came up with the Prime Directive. And he came up with, all kinds of stuff that he did. And he was, from what I've read, he was a really good guy to work with and work around. He was everybody's cool. He was a very talented guy that could work with anybody. And I personally will say that that's the reason why season 2 is as good as it is for Star Trek, is because Gene L. Coon was running. He was the showrunner during that season. And he knew exactly how the show should be. Some of its best episodes on average were shows that he had at least had a hand in writing and or rewriting. But really, that entire writer's room is like a murderer's row of talent.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why J. Michael Straczynski, when he was putting together everything for Babylon 5, why he went out and got the writers that he got.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Let's see. Courtney says, Ben, oh, you and she are wearing the same shirt. Wow.
Well, Courtney, you obviously have good fashion sense.
Hey, look, I'd wear a Batman shirt too, but I thought I'd wear a shirt that was more in keeping with where I was during this period of time as a child, because everybody, I think, what changed once you got to 1970 is that, when it came to comics, there was one character in the 70s the early 1970s, that just seemed to take over all of comics. This character just went, remember, we're coming out of the 60s. So Batmania has died down. Okay.
Right.
Batman, the television series, is over. But because of that show, it nearly killed the comic. But Marvel comes sweeping in, and next thing you know, that's what I'm talking about, kids. The Amazing Spider-Man. Yes.
So, Courtney, we cannot let them know that we planned it. Otherwise, too many other secrets come out.
That's hard to explain. Right.
That gets awkward real quick. Emily, thank you, Real Popcorn Geek. I wasn't going to go Wikipedia Bones just to do it.
But
Mr. Reed, makes you sound like you're talking to my dad.
But that's, and speaking of comics, that's also one of the things that they did for several years during this period. Was the famous DC Marvel softball games that they used to have in Central Park. And they would often, report on what the score was. Something that it looked like they stopped doing after 1975. 1975 is the year that Warner Brothers bought DC Comics and changed everything. But before that, DC and Marvel were these two companies that had been around, two publishing companies that had been around since the 1930s. It's Gambit, 1987.
Gambit.
Yes, she was. Yes, she was. Sam Raimi and I have something in common, which is we're both fans of the early Spider-Man stories. In my opinion, once Steve Ditko's no longer there, that changes the character, in my opinion. And Sam Raimi felt the same way. Again, nothing against Stan Lee, but Steve was a really good balance to a lot of the stuff that Stan would do. And the moment Steve left, it became more of a Stan Lee thing. You still get the spirit of Steve Ditko in the look of the 1967 animated series, which, in my opinion, is the truest version of the character. And that incredible theme song. Which, by the early 1970s, syndication, which really explains how you and I have learned a lot of this stuff. Syndication was always important. And syndication was how Star Trek became so big. By 1970, Star Trek had been off the air now over a year, and was slowly gaining a brand new fan base in with the college crowd and with really a lot of people across the board. Syndication allowed Star Trek to be played in more places and at many different times. Some people, a majority of people, I think, watched it closer to 6 o'clock, around that time in the afternoon. Although you did have certain people that would be able to watch it late at night or early in the morning, but it worked. It worked. It did its job, and so
it
by
made fans, and that's where we start to get the underground fandom and start to see the. Thank you, Asia. Sorry, I was being by a cat.
That's all right.
That's where we start to see some of the underground fandom.
Yeah. Well, many of these would be the fans that would go on to create a lot of conventions and invite a lot of the stars of that show to be on it. And it would be everybody except William Shatner that would go to a lot of these conventions. And as Gary and I have stated on many shows, one of the great things about a lot of books that have been written about Star Trek is that you begin to look at certain things that happened, especially during this time period. And you begin to realize that a lot of people's views on who these actors are were mainly formed by who they got a chance to see or who they would be exposed to when it came time for a lot of the convention appearances. And it was sort of intimated at some of these events that Mr. Shatner was not interested in the fan base, which was not true.
Right.
What had happened was that, unlike his co-stars, Mr. Shatner didn't get a chance to truly enjoy and profit in.
Hello, kids.
Hello.
If you can hear us, hello.
Hi. Are you all right?
It may be that's an audio problem. I'll be back, guys.
Okay. What we found out or have found out is that William Shatner was not able to really benefit from the money that was paid out from syndication. He and his wife had gotten a divorce.
Oh, okay.
And he gave all of his money to his ex-wife, and so she could use that to raise his girls, his daughters. So Shatner, for the longest period of time, was living in his truck camper. He had a truck, and he put a camper on the back of it, and he would live out of that. He talks about that in a few interviews and in his biography. But at the same time, he was also, he had to take anything that could come along because he had to pay for his daughters being raised. Nowadays it seems like a lot of people in that particular instance would find ways of trying to duck a lot of that stuff. But Shatner embraced it and used that as a way of he would take any parts that would come along.
Right. Even so he was working.
Yeah, he was working a lot. He took it and he took. I shouldn't make it seem like he was very discerning. He wasn't. He took everything. He took everything.
Right.
If he could fit it into his schedule and you had a paycheck for him, chances are he did it. Yeah. And he he even reunited with a few creatives that he had started out with. There's a movie called let's see, what was I think it was called The Intruder. I think that was it. The Intruder. No, yeah. 1961. I think that was. Or 62. That's it. 1962. And so that movie was actually shot in the Boot Hill of Missouri.
Huh.
And it was a Roger Corman movie. Well, then years later, he would reunite with Roger Corman to make a movie in the 1970s with Angie Dickinson called Big Bad Mama. And
guys,
yeah,
I need to catch up here. Andy Morrow has gifted 5 Pop Culture membership. So, okay, thank you very much, Andy.
Thank you.
And the winners are, it's Courtney's Fellowship of Oddballs. Yes. We have the Comic Relief Crusader, our good friend Mike. Fun with collecting. We have Shield Wall of Dragons and Gate of Marble. So, congratulations to all of you. And if you can, please extend your gratitude to Andy Morrow. Thank you, Andy.
Do we have anything to say for Andy?
We have some happy winner here.
Andy's awesome. So, and going into this, one of the things that I have always loved about Star Trek is the fan base. Because the fans, you're talking about Star Trek being in syndication. That was because of the fans. In '68, the fan campaign that got it into a 3rd season, which got it enough for syndication. You know? And then the fan, it was the fans who started some of those conventions. The first fan run convention was in '72, Star Trek Lives. But it also created so many things that were just Star Trek Enterprises. They would send out this. If you go over to fan lore and look up, it started off as Lincoln Enterprises, but it was basically 8.5 by 11 standard sheets of paper stapled together. It was just a catalog, started by Beau Trimble, and but you have these. There's the 1968 con program. Is basically just an 8.5 by 11 black and white line art Star Trek con. It is just. Let me drop the link to this over on fan lore. If it's okay if I drop that in the regular chat.
Yeah.
So hang on. I gotta connect
here. While you're doing that, I want to hit on what I had talked about earlier about 1973. 1973 was a very special year during this period. 1973 was the year that saw the Wonder Woman pilot done with Kathy Lee Crosby.
Yes.
And 1973 was also the year. Let's see. Let me get this because I don't want to mess this up. I think that was also the year of the $6 Million Man. I remember correctly. Yeah, 1973, $6 Million Man. And
Yes.
the thing about Wonder Woman
Mm-hmm.
was that my brother didn't know this. I had to tell him this one.
Mm-hmm.
I said, there's something that you need to know about the original Wonder Woman TV movie
Mm-hmm.
starring Kathy Lee Crosby, who's this beautiful blonde woman, and the fact that she wears this jumpsuit with the Wonder Woman colors. I said, that entire movie was done by the people who would end up making the Linda Carter series.
Mm-hmm.
That goes to show you what the powers that be at both DC and Marvel were complaining about for a long time. Hollywood never treated them fairly, ever.
Yeah.
And the first idea that Hollywood had was to do something radically different with the idea of Wonder Woman.
Right.
And as much as I loved Kathy Lee Crosby and Ricardo Montalban, who's also the villain of the movie, is that when that movie failed,
Mm-hmm.
they retooled it over the course of a year and came back out with they parted ways with Kathy, and they hired Linda, and just did it the way they should have done it the first time around.
Yeah, because the original one, if I remember, she didn't have any superpowers.
No, she did, but they used her like a secret agent. She still came from Paradise Island.
Mm-hmm.
You know, her mom was the queen. All that stuff. They did it all. The big difference, though, is that the reason why I still think the Kathy Lee Crosby version is important is because, Jane Kennedy's in there. She plays one of the women on Paradise Island. It's got Jane Kennedy in it. And I'm sorry, but Jane Kennedy trumps a lot of stuff from that time period. And so Gary knows what I'm talking about. Because we did, I had to do that one. Just like, why don't you go ahead and Google Jane Kennedy, early 1970s. And he did it. And it's like, oh my God. It's like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So, but also $6 Million Man, you got to understand something. For people that actually grew up with the $6 Million Man, I mean, this was peak science fiction.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I mean I actually read the original novel that
Cyborg.
all of this is based. Yeah, I went out and got Cyborg and I read it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, whoa, that was fun.
Yeah, and the original episodes were not what we saw later on. Were not the things that we associate with the with the series.
Yeah.
Oh, the original episodes were angsty. Oh my God.
But hey, it's all on DVD and Blu-ray right now. You can get it on
Amazon Prime too, or you can, or I think it's on. You can get it streaming as well, which is where I first started watching the early episodes. Oh my God, because when Steve uses the bionic eye, we're accustomed to that one sound effect, right?
Yep.
It doesn't show up in the early episodes. And in the earliest episodes, he is very, very much depressed about being part machine, which we do not see in later episodes.
Yeah.
And he is portrayed very much like a secret agent. He kills, almost without remorse in a lot of cases. Although he is not, random about it. But it's just very different when you first watch it. And I like a lot of the things that they kept, they did in the original episodes.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow. Well, speaking of which, again, this all comes back to Star Trek because it does. For me, I went wild with the character of Josh Lane from it's the episode Burning Bright. Okay. And that's the episode that's season 2. And that's the episode that William Shatner makes a guest appearance as a guy who has these bionic-like powers. And it's Shatner though. Come on.
Right. Are we talking season 2 of the $6 Million Man?
$6 Million Man, yeah, because Bionic Woman hadn't started yet. And let's see who else was in there. John Saxon,
who was a staple of sci-fi and fantasy.
Well, here's the thing.
But that's season 1.
That is season 1. I thought it was season 2 that Shatner was on. Okay. So that continues the record that Shatner has, because Shatner had already done season 1 he did the season 1 of a lot of TV shows. Right. One of them was Columbo. He did season 1 of Columbo.
Oh yeah.
And he had done season 1 of the $6 Million Man. And he even had his own television show that was more or less San Francisco-based version of the Wild Wild West called The Barbary Coast. Okay. I love that show. I've
never heard of that show. What was it about?
Well, it's about 2 guys. One guy that actually runs a casino, but he has like a record, and he's tried to bury it, but the government found out, and there's a government agent that actually makes his headquarters in this casino, and he's played by William Shatner. And Shatner's playing kind of like he plays a combination of James West.
Try to describe it without mentioning Wild Wild West. That's really what I want to know. Can you describe it without comparing it to? No, you can't.
I can't.
It's absolutely a ripoff, but I loved it anyway. I watched it too as a kid.
So what was the title of that show?
It was called The Barbary Coast.
Barbary Coast. Okay.
And guess what? You could watch. You could watch it for free on YouTube, the pilot episode. And again, it's not that good, but I enjoy watching it because it was Shatner.
But yeah, when I was a kid, that thing was amazing. Hey, I just want to make sure before the day ends that we bring up the fact that Film Threat just took their step promoting the Schumacher cut today.
Really?
Yes, and so I posted about it on my personal Twitter, and I've commented on their Twitter. It is something else that they made that step, because I'm wondering, when is someone going to step up and really talk about the Schumacher cut after what just happened? After Warner nixed a special showing by a local video store, wasn't allowed to show their copy at a movie theater. Warner Brothers said, no, you can't do that.
Well,
and
I understand legally, but personally, I think it's nothing but
it was really a dumb move on their part. It makes them look bad. Big major corporation studio attacking a private event. It was a private event. Nobody was. They paid to rent the theater for friends to come in and see this copy of the film. So that is some bullshit on Warner. Yeah. So there's backlash. Film Threat's talking about it. Let me get the link for you, because this shit's huge. And here it is. This video is essential to watch if you give a shit about things like this. I'll put it in the main chat right here.
By the way, I couldn't put my link in the main chat, so I had to drop it in the studio chat. I don't know if it popped up on the screen. Or
Make
not.
a comment in the public chat real quick, and somebody can make you a wrench.
I
so
tried.
you can do it.
Can't link to the public chat.
You can't chat there. You can't make a comment.
I'm trying to. Just trying to connect my YouTube account, and it's giving me
from here, from the studio, you can.
Yeah, you can't do it
open,
here. Yeah, you can
you
do it.
can open the stream on YouTube and comment there. However, it's a picture that you're trying to.
Okay. Hang on. I'll just go there. All right.
So it's in the private chat now, Martin. The link to the film threat video. Go check this shit out. Chris and his buddy are doing it. Fuck you, monkey. You show up here, but you won't show up on my show, you son of a bitch. I'm pining for you on our show. Like, where's Monkey? Where? And you come over here, you massive prick. I love you, buddy.
Oh. Sup, Monkey?
Hey, Jibus. Gary? Penny
Yes. Absolutely, everybody. If you can, yeah, that is astronaut baby Keith.
Astronaut baby Keith. Wow.
I noticed it's really cool, man. Apparently Keith was wearing some Jerry curl because he's got some bangs going on.
I noticed. I was like, I wonder. I didn't realize that was me. It's like, whose hair is that?
So I just found that website and I was like, oh, I got to make a few baby Keiths, and so I did.
Oh, praising.
Oh, wow.
Well, I can't make baby Keiths that way, Martin. Only Keith can do that. And I think he that shit ended.
Yeah, that shit ended.
Yeah.
That store is now officially closed.
There you go.
All right, so I dropped the link I was talking about, the 1968 con pick, the cover of the con program. Have you seen it?
You know what? Memories. That's all
Right?
I gotta say. Memories. Wow. Oh,
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is that, we were talking about fandom and its influence. It's fandom that gave us things like the concept of the Mary Sue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the first big Mary Sue, if you remember, is from Star Trek.
That's what it's
Next Generation.
Well, the actual
it was in a novel, and that is why the trope is called the Mary Sue.
The Mary Sue. It was actually
the
done in a
character called
fanzine.
Mary Sue.
Yeah, it was done in a fanzine, and it was a deliberate parody of some of the writer self inserts.
Yeah.
And it was basically, it was the editor of one of the fanzines who did it. So
That's interesting. I didn't know that, but I knew the first real Mary Sue was Wesley on Star Trek Next Gen.
Yep. That's about right. Yep. Okay.
And I was at the convention where Roddenberry defended Wesley, saying he is me, and I'm like, well, you fucked up. And if you're that shitty as a kid, I'm surprised you became such an interesting writer. So, hey, everybody, help Monkey Jeebus out, guys, if you can. Every dollar counts. And please, if you can't afford it, spread the word. I'm going to get out of here. I just wanted to drop it and mention Film Threat and say hi to you guys.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, man. Good seeing you again, Ben. See you, Martin.
good to see you again.
See you.
Oh, I got to do the 3 buttons again to leave. I fucking don't understand this.
It's like the seashells. Come on.
I click leave studio, then a pop-up from the studio comes up, and it says stay or leave studio, which never offers that. And then when I Click that one. Another pop-up says, do you want to leave this site? The answer is, fuck yes, I do. Let me out of here. Bye, guys.
Well, at least you don't have to send an email to log off.
Let's see. Anima says, I'm watching TNG. I hate Wesley. Currently in season 4, and thankfully he's not on right now.
Well,
I never minded Wesley.
Yeah.
I never hated Wesley, and I didn't get why he had so many hate. Now the actor, that's another whole bag of cats. But the character, I think it was okay.
Well, see, and Will Wheaton, I actually kind of like Will Wheaton. He's had a pretty rough journey, but he's also become an advocate for mental health, which a lot of fans have to deal with.
Yeah. I never minded Wesley as a character at all. I totally understood what they were trying to do with him. They weren't always successful, but Star Trek. That's all I got to say. It's Star Trek.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Anyway, let's see. So in getting back to the programming, one of the other things that is definitely should be considered about this time period, or as I was saying before, a lot of the films, I mean, you're looking at the Andromeda Strain in 71, THX 1138,
which you might have to explain to the younger fans the significance of THX 1138.
Well, yeah, 1138. Okay. George Lucas made a film in college and got an opportunity to spend some studio money and use some big actors to basically recreate his whole thing as a major film, using Robert Duvall in the lead. And it's again, with a lot of the other science fiction, air quotes, released during this period, it really does fit. It's very lots of cuts, a lot of story told through editing and
this is a Coppola produced film.
Yes. And then you have a film that I think is more along the lines of what I think in certain parts Lucas wanted to at least try to emulate some of, at least in the early parts, A Clockwork Orange, also from 1971.
Oh, God, yes.
And that's a film that is definitely a classic of this time period. Then you have Silent Running. And that's from 1972.
Oh, God, Silent Running, yes.
And Soylent Green was 1973. Again, 1973, everybody. Right. 1973.
Best year
Saturday
ever.
morning. Well, Saturday morning, September 8th, 1973. That's the debut on NBC of Star Trek The Animated Series. And on ABC at that exact same time, Super Friends.
Yeah.
Well, we can all tell what Ben actually watched.
Super Friends, bear in mind, Super Friends starts in 73, right? Yep. I was like 5 going on 6 in that year.
Yep.
This was my introduction to a lot of the DC superheroes. Like I said the last time, this was where I learned Superman's secret origin. I'm 5, learning, for the first time, learning the name of Krypton.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had already learned all that watching all of the Filmation DC cartoons syndication. So,
now I led a very sheltered life as a younger kid because my mom was from San Angelo. So San Angelo, Texas, which is the sheep capital of the world. My first adoptive father, who I was originally named after, Air Force, very conservative. Most of my stuff was Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew and Tom Swift, that type of thing. Because in San Angelo, they didn't have the 60s. They just basically put the 50s on reruns. And so I'm growing up having to see a lot of this stuff, on the sly or by accident. And so Saturday morning cartoons were my were my first introduction to comics and to superheroes.
I think for a lot of people, I mean, if you weren't watching them in syndicated animation, by 1970s, I mean, for instance, for me, as I said before, I shouldn't say for me, but I think there was a major push of Spider-Man in the early 1970s.
Yes,
so you had him. His comics were selling every place. He was the face of Marvel Comics.
He was.
By 1970 on to about, say, 1979, Spider-Man was the face of Marvel Comics. And he was also on the Electric Company. They had a live-action Spider-Man on there. And
then you had him in comic strips in the paper.
Yep. Spider-Man was everywhere. Everywhere.
He was everything everywhere. One of my first comic books outside of Sergeant Rock was comics, was Spider-Man comics, including at the time trade paperback, which was really about a 5x6 version that had him fighting the Hulk in the desert, and was it? There were now I can't remember the name of them. There were three normal villains that gave him a run for his money. One was like the Snake. The other guy had like iron on his fists, and I can't remember. God, they were mob enforcers. Yeah, it was when he first met Mary Jane in that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, all this stuff, it just brings it all back. I mean, looking at all those ads for, I remember when they used to carry ads that would, you could buy sea monkeys, you could buy Nazi paraphernalia, you could buy
X-ray glasses,
glasses,
karate lessons, Charles Atlas's bodybuilding stuff.
They ran those for decades. Even high top sneakers, the Dr. J comic strip that they ran back. Oh geez, that brings it all back.
Oh God.
But this period right here, I mean, so 1970, so we're talking, as far as Hollywood is concerned, what we're looking at then is a particular character actor, who, for many people like us, he was, I'd have to say, he was really the embodiment of what we consider to be a really good science fiction character actor. And, I couldn't say the embodiment, but I mean, he was what he was. I mean, he was in everything, kind of like William Shatner, and that was Bill Bixby.
Yes, we've talked about before. Yeah,
Bill Bixby was starting this decade, The Courtship of Eddie's Father, which was a television version of a movie of the same name. And then he would go from that. For many fans, it would literally be he would go from that to the Incredible Hulk, which would be later on in this decade.
Right.
But for those of us that are the true diehard Bill Bixby fans, we know what TV show came as soon as he was done with The Courtship of Eddie's Father. We all know, including it was me and Arsenio Hall and dozens of others, NBC's The Magician.
Yes.
You remember that one?
I loved The Magician, and it ended too damn soon. So real quick, I'm gonna drop something in the chat. One of those comic ads. And do you remember that, Keith?
Oh, I'm gonna tell you, man, this is talking about all this stuff brings it back big time. I mean, just
well, the next one I'm going to drop here is what you actually got.
Oh, geez, are you kidding me?
That's what came in. That is what came in that set. And in the background, you can see the actual Foot Locker. Yeah, that was your. They were just basically flat stamped.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. Remember when they used to? I know there's a company now that's starting to get this stuff together. But remember when they used to print 45s onto the back of cereal boxes? You cut them out and play music.
Yeah, you could cut them out and play them. Oh God, I remember those. Oh man. It was anybody's guess of whether or not you got one that would actually play.
Yes. All of mine played. And I hear now that they have collected some of them. Turns out when the Monkees did it, it was from a brand new album of that period, and they released like 5 or 6 songs that they have now collected and that they're putting out that were done on the backs of cereal boxes.
Oh,
so
that's
now
amazing.
somebody's
Yeah.
Oh.
I remember collecting those off the back of cereal boxes. That brings back memories.
Hey, James Caserta. Okay, now during this particular period, I think Scott Bakula was probably either in college or he was leaving St. Louis at that time. Along with, let's see, Scott Bakula would have been in the same class. Oh man, as Kevin Kline.
Yeah, because his he didn't start until 86.
Yeah. So we're still about a decade or two ahead of. Yeah, so he probably would have still been in St. Louis. In fact, I think both he and Kevin Kline were still in St. Louis for the time period that we're covering on this episode, which is 1970 to 1976. So, yeah, well, no, nothing wrong with Scott Bakula at all. I mean, he's a fantastic actor.
Yeah. Oh, I remember watching him on Quantum Leap. And again, even in the 90s, you had to get you had to be there at the time that it was on in order to see it.
Oh, and they had him in all kinds of stuff. They even brought him back for a updated version of the Invaders.
Well, he was on Murphy Brown.
Yes, he was.
At one point, I remember seeing him there.
And what else did they have him in? He was like the king of the pilots in the 80s and early 90s, and he just seemed to, but What
Mhm.
I'm talking about with Bill Bixby is that Bill Bixby was just the man. It just seemed like he could do whatever he wanted. I still would like to think that he would have been involved in doing a lot more TV
Mhm.
had he not passed away due to cancer.
Yeah, yeah, he would have. Him and Michael Langdon.
Oh yeah, yeah. Michael Landon was just. It
Michael
was
Landon was,
so
yeah.
weird
Mm-hmm.
to see him go from Bonanza and almost within a year go from that
Mm-hmm.
to Little House on the Prairie.
Right.
Oh,
And then the Angel one. Oh, was it Touched by?
oh yeah.
It was the original
No,
Touched
no,
by an Angel.
that was
right?
called Highway to Heaven
Highway to Heaven. Yeah.
with Victor French.
Yes. And just whatever he did, it was just like magic for him.
But again, we're getting into another decade there.
True.
We're still sticking with the 70s. We still got to finish the rest of this out.
Right.
And we're only going to 1976,
Right.
so for this episode. Next episode, we could really get to some really big stuff because, again, it's not that long of a time period, 1977 to 1979. But there is a lot that happens within that time frame. That genre.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything genre was just affected by what happened during that period.
Right.
So during this period of time, though, Roddenberry is still making pilots.
Mm-hmm. Oh, didn't he have? Yeah.
He made a Supernatural pilot with Robert Culp, and he worked with John Saxon on a pilot, and then I think all of those are available, and then
he did the Quester tapes,
but that would be about 1978.
4.
I think 4. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, then that fits. That fits.
Yeah, yeah. And that was Planet Earth. That's what I was looking for. That was one that had John Saxon in it.
Yep.
And then also in that era, so kicking off in 1970, that's when we get UFO.
Yep. Well, here's the reason why I also brought up what Roddenberry was doing was who he had teamed up with. Roddenberry had left Star Trek and basically had placed Gene L. Kuhn in charge. When Gene L. Kuhn quit Star Trek, and I think mainly because Paramount had bought out Desilu. Roddenberry ended up reteaming with Gene L. Kuhn on some of those pilots. So it was really reteaming the team of Roddenberry and, well, the two Genes, I should say. Gene and Gene reunited and tried to get certain things going. Yeah, Genesis 2 and Planet Earth. Look at you, Real Popcorn Geek.
Right.
Thank you. As we wind up here, let me at least just say this. I'm going to mention a few things. So we have the Mako action figures. Now, they've already released the Star Trek stuff during this period. So, when you would get your big JCPenney's catalog for Christmas and you're looking at all the toys, so you have all of the DC and Marvel figures. Shazam and Isis.
Shazam the Mighty Isis. Yes.
All of that stuff. All that stuff is during this period. See, people forget that Shazam definitely is a big figure during this moment in time, and that I loved watching Shazam and Isis. That was just a lot of fun to be able to see that stuff. And I think all episodes of Shazam, along with ISIS, are now on DVD and Blu-ray, so you can find them. Let's see. Wow, real popcorn geek just diving deep. Dylan Hunt.
Right.
Wow. Anyway, you also had let's see, you had J.J. Arms.
Mm-hmm.
You have of course G.I. Joe looked very different during this time period.
Very true. Yeah. Oh, J.J. Arms. Oh God. I remember, yes, I had the action figure. And yeah, God. Because living in South Texas, you did not. Electro Woman and Dyna Girl, yes, 11 Alpha. I had such a crush on them as kids. But yeah, J.J. Arms was a detective in El Paso, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And he originally got his start in Hawaii Five-0 episode, I think, on TV. But
wow.
No, he had a brief. I read his biography at one point too.
Wow.
And yeah, Martin, get on this one for Shanatsky. Tom Baker era of Doctor Who.
Yeah. Well, this covers not only the Tom Baker era, but it also covers the. What?
Oh, somebody.
Oh, Shanatsky's banner.
Wow.
But yeah, it was, and there was so much going on in the era. That was also right around that time was when Space 1999 first showed up.
Yeah, Space 1999 would be launched. Technically, they filmed the pilot in 73, but the pilot wouldn't even make it to air until about 75.
Yeah, 74, 75, sir. When I remember that. Right before the bicentennial.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that fits in with Star Trek because the guy who Paramount hired to take over Star Trek's third season, as Gary and I have pointed out, he basically ruined Star Trek. He ruined Star Trek. And so what happens? They allow him to run Space 1999's second season. And that ruined Space 1999. He drove it off the air. But 72 was when that's during that whole period with John Pertwee as the third Doctor. So you're going from Pertwee into Tom Baker.
Into Baker. Two great Doctors, yeah.
Yes.
And we're not quite into the Space Academy Star Commander, so I'll leave that one alone. Those were 77 and 78.
Yeah. 1969 was the first year of Scooby-Doo. So you're dealing with reruns of Scooby-Doo up until about 1973 when it was the Scooby-Doo movies, where they would have cameo appearances and guest stars from other characters like Sonny and Cher, the Addams Family, Don Knotts, Jerry, I can't believe I'm fudging on the dude's name. Jerry Reed.
Okay.
Jerry Reed and Batman and Robin.
Right.
That was my favorite episode when Batman and Robin were on this. And again, that is the only non-Scooby-Doo Where Are You stuff that I like. Outside of that, I am a Scooby-Doo purist, meaning that for me, it's just the 1969 series. I don't recognize anything outside of that. I don't want no Scrappy-Doo. I don't need no Scooby Dum. I don't need any of that. That's nothing but a bad head trip. It's just I can't stand any of that stuff. But I love the original 1969 series. That's great stuff.
Right. So another one from that era, which I think actually got its start on Scooby-Doo, was the Harlem Globetrotters series.
Yeah. Yep.
Hanna-Barbera. Because the Globetrotters, that was their era. That was like when they were big as,
Between them and let's see, shows like Lassie's Rescue Rangers, and you also had
Land of
the Lost, of course, but you also had oh man, let's see if I can get this one right. You went from that to Mission Magic, which was the ABC series. That one had Rick Springfield, teen idol from Australia, who would have all new original songs every episode, and he would be animated into the show. Mission Magic, is the show that I will go to my grave saying that they can comfortably sue the people behind the Magic School Bus, because that basically is what it was. It was the original version of the Magic School Bus. So there you go.
Well, and that also to me, I think Josie and the Pussycats came out around that time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was my introduction to, which I think laid the foundation for Gem. But that's going into the 80s and 90s. But yeah, I Josie and the Pussycats, I remember watching that one. And it was the thing that appealed to me eventually was it was Josie and the Pussycats in outer space. That made it, verge on sci-fi.
There's just, to those not born during this era, there's a lot we are leaving out. There's a lot we are leaving out.
Oh, I mean, yes.
I mean, you have stuff like for instance, there's a TV series that Mel Brooks did called When Things Were Rotten. And it's a TV series that he did. It's a Robin Hood comedy series, of which many of the jokes he recycled for Robin Hood Men in Tights years later. Also, I think about 1970. We'll do this next time, but about 1978 is when they did the pilot to another Mel Brooks, Blazing Saddles. They tried to turn that into a television series, and the pilot was done about 1978. And Wacky Races, yes. Oh man, there's just so much to this decade. Again, I hope we've been able to properly illustrate to everybody out there that a lot of what we would enjoy, years, decades later, this is a nice start in understanding where a lot of that came from. Because Star Trek Phase 2 was also, during this time period, was also something that Paramount was looking at really going forward with. Right. In my opinion, to make up for the fact that they completely got screwed on the whole ratings thing for the original Star Trek series.
Yeah.
And then.
And the other thing, just one of those things that I thought was interesting and hilarious. This is where we start to see some of the costuming ideas that start to show up in later things too.
Yes.
Even after Star Wars comes up. It's like in UFO, for no explicable reason, when women are assigned to the UFO moon base, they suddenly sprout purple hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now I don't know if you know this, Ben, but UFO season 2, or is it season 3? That was the original basis of what would eventually become Space 1999. Same
Doesn't
production
surprise me.
company,
Right?
and but when UFO went off the air, they just converted everything, turned everything around, and made it into Space 1999.
Like use the sets,
Yeah, sets and various other things. Now,
right?
there's still the rumor that somebody's going to try to bring it back and call it Space 2099, which is a dumb idea. I think if you're going to do an updated version or a new version of it, you should just call it Moonbase Alpha.
See, that would work. That would work because you're not tying it to a certain year or era.
That's right. Because when they did it in the 70s, 1999 seemed so far away. You know?
Yeah.
And now it's like, you can't do that. I mean, and calling it 2099, really? I mean, you're reaching there. So.
And I remember my actual introduction to UFO was the space fighters.
Yes.
And from that got me to looking for the show, and I eventually found it on our local public broadcasting.
Yeah.
As a kid, which my parents did not even know existed. So, which was hilarious because at this point it was before Mom remarried. So yeah, my parents didn't know public broadcasting was even around. So it was like it was kind of like one of those things of I had to kind of sneak off to do it,
Yeah.
and because being also, here's the thing about that time, being a sci-fi nerd back then was the death of your social life.
Pretty much. Yes. Yes.
Being, not being into football, not being, into Westerns and things like that. There was definitely a stigma,
Oh, big time. It's not like it is now. It is really more accepted. All the Tomorrow people love the Tomorrow people.
Tomorrow people, yes, that's a good one.
You're right. You had to basically say goodbye to a social life. Me, I was able to fold a lot of that stuff in and still be a fan and still play sports and still do other things. It's just
I was too.
I just I found a way of making it work. But Kevin and I never lost our love for this stuff. Really, all my brothers, we never really lost our love for a lot of this, even though my youngest brother, who was just on here, probably doesn't remember a lot of this. But
right. Well, see, yeah, but, and going through it in South Texas alone, because I had no brothers, and when I was in high school in the 80s, junior high and high school, being a jock and a nerd, right? That made me very popular with some people and very unpopular with the rest of the jocks.
Oof.
Yes. I mean, it was
wow.
It was tough. And
okay, you win. You win.
That being a theater kid too at the time, but it was kind of like a double-edged sword at the time. That on the one hand, I could be fairly popular, but I was weird by comparison, because all the football players were in choir. You didn't even dare touch band.
Wow.
Yeah, being a nerd back then was hard. We were underground,
Well, you had to be.
Yeah.
And it didn't help that,
Mhm.
when it came to Star Trek, it just seemed like anything with the name Star Trek on it, any book, you just wanted to pick up and read anyway.
Exactly. And at that time, and back then, you could be fairly given what it was competing against, you could be fairly sure that it would be a decent book. But it was so barren back then that you didn't care.
Well,
guys,
yeah,
I myself chose the path of violence and has always been an openly science nerd aficionado. So you have to learn to fight. You have to learn to fight too.
Right? We'll see. Yeah, and I was openly a nerd, but I was also a jock. And it was, but also back in the day, I wore glasses, which I still do. But in the 70s, there was 70s glasses were huge, man. You were making a statement with any set of frames you put on, and you were also making a choice to develop strong neck muscles.
I like this strategy too. Well, it's not a strategy, but you have it. 11 Alpha says, I also had the advantage of being too clueless to realize how popular I was.
Yeah.
I totally get that. I just didn't care. I read what I wanted to read, and my whole thing was, well, who's gonna try to stop me? Seriously,
right?
Who's gonna try to? I mean, if you really want to take this comic book out of my hands, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You could try.
Yeah. Well, that's my parents had a lot of control over what came into the house, but
yeah,
I snuck in a lot of stuff, like reading Tolkien at the time. It slid under the radar because it wasn't known as fantasy then. It was but also I could get away with reading Conan because around that, for a kid in the 70s, when I was like 10 and 11, I'm reading Conan. That's just like,
what did you think? What did you think of Marvel's Conan books? Conan comics?
Oh God, Savage Sword of Conan was the bomb. I first read. I remember when I was in San Angelo, I would visit my grandparents over the summers, and I would go with my grandfather to the barber shop to get my hair done. And back in the day, I had hair. It was very fine, very blonde. I'll have to come up with a picture and embarrass the fuck out of myself. But they would always have Red Sonja and Conan comics. So I, unlike a lot of kids my age, look forward to the trip to the barber shop while my Papa was getting his hair cut. I would read the comics. And then, but Savage Sword of Conan, that was the one that if my parents knew, they would never have let me read it.
There were several books like that. I mean, you're talking, during that time period, you had Swamp Thing, you had Man Thing, you had House of Secrets, House of Mystery, you had Shang-Chi, the real Shang-Chi comics. You had Heroes for Hire. You had Doctor Strange. Oh, Doctor Strange was just.
Doctor Strange was an acid trip on paper. I mean, literally, in order for them to get some of the stuff those artists had to be going, all right, it's time for, we got another Doctor Strange issue coming up. All right, man, let me hit a few tabs of acid.
Wow. But also, no, you had the O'Neill and Adams run on Batman. See, this time period covers them because by 1970 they had taken over the Batman comic and had started doing what they did and introducing things like getting away from all the stuff that was connecting, that even reminded people of the TV show. So they moved Bruce and Alfred moved out of Wayne Manor and lived at the top in a penthouse on top of Wayne Tower at the center of Gotham, and had a pseudo Batcave that was being operated from underneath Wayne Tower.
Wayne Tower, right?
So it made it possible for Batman. So then Batman didn't always have to drive the Batmobile. He could literally just jump off the tower and make his way to any particular point he needed to be without having to drive.
Right. And that was kind of where we got the glide cape.
Yep. And then that they would, I think they brought back Joker and gave us Two-Face, but they brought back Two-Face also. But they created Ra's al Ghul and the League of Shadows during that run. And that was the whole run where they would combine Bruce Wayne with James Bond and allowed him as Bruce Wayne to do some fighting and do a lot of adventure stuff. And that run, in my opinion, is still one of the greatest runs, if not the greatest run within Batman history.
Right. Now, if I'm remembering right, isn't that kind of when Bruce Wayne stopped being the bumbling playboy? Like you said, kind of giving the James Bond feel to him from time to time.
No, he wasn't much of a bumbling playboy. That was, he was a playboy. It was just a completely separate individual.
Right.
And what during the time that the Batman television show was running, the comics were almost completely different than what the show was.
Yeah.
Because the show itself was based on the Batman comics of the 1950s. And so the plots and ideas came out of the 1950s. By the 1960s, the comics had moved on, and the television show wouldn't premiere until 66.
Yeah.
So in the years, in fact, here's a little known fact. Batgirl was actually introduced in the 1950s. But she wasn't Barbara Gordon. They changed Batgirl to fit the TV show.
Right.
Okay, Batgirl and Batwoman were introduced at the same time.
Yeah.
And Batgirl was really Katie Kane. Okay, so she is kind of sort of related to Bruce Wayne. Kate Kane is Bruce Wayne's cousin.
Yeah.
And Katie, I think, is related to Kate by another branch of the family, I think, if I remember correctly. And then long about 1960-61, Batwoman and Batgirl disappeared from the comic.
Yeah.
And then Batgirl shows up in 1966 because of the TV show. And they rewrote her character to instead be Commissioner Gordon's daughter.
Right.
So Barbara Gordon's actually the second Batgirl.
And if I'm remembering right, there's actually there's Katie Kane and then there's Betty Kane.
That's it. I'm sorry. Betty Kane, not Kate. Oh, why do I keep calling her Kate or Kathy or Kate?
Well, there's Kate. Okay, so
there's Kate Kane is
Batwoman. Right.
And then Betty Kane is actually Batgirl.
Right.
And,
who eventually became Flamebird.
Yes, I don't count that. I don't. But I mean, I the reason why I count her as Batgirl is that she joined the Teen Titans for a while.
Right.
She would come. The thing, even though Barbara Gordon became Batgirl in comics, Betty Kane actually returned as Batgirl to be a part of Titans West because they they divided the Titans on the two different coasts. So in the 1970s, the Teen Titans East and the Teen Titans West. And the Teen Titans West had Betty Kane as Batgirl. They had Beast Boy. They had Harley Quinn, the Joker's daughter, and they had several other heroes. But to me, they still weren't as cool as the OG original Titans of Wonder Girl and Speedy and Kid Flash and Aqualad and Robin. So
Right.
Okay. That's you know what, we've gone back, we've done this, and it's great doing this. I would love to continue longer, but we have reached that point in the show where it is just time to just say a big thank you to the Peter Venkman fan site. Shanatsky, 11 Alpha, James Caserta, Monkey Jeebus. And remember, everybody, Monkey Jeebus needs your help. Seriously, check out what we had posted for him. Do him a solid. He's really great guy. Cam's Crash Courses. Fun
Thank you,
with
Cam.
collecting.
I love being here.
Gambit 1987. Andy Morrow. Mrs. A. Let's see. And Hale and
Helen Place.
Oh, Helen Place. Eastland Burkholder. James. Anima Confusa, because she's cool like that. And the lovely Penny. Courtney. And really to all of you out there who just bothered to check in and have fun and ask us questions, really, seriously. The very fact that you're spending time giving us just a tiny bit of your time today means a lot to me. So remember, don't forget to like, share, subscribe this episode. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. We're here all the time, it seems like. Especially Martin.
Right.
And thank you, Peter Venkman. And seriously, Ben, it's always good having you here, my friend. I think we should just go ahead and pencil you in for the rest of the summer.
Good. I was wondering what I was going to do for the summer.
Yeah. There you go. Camp Counselor Ben, everybody.
Right.
He's joining the staff of Camp Peace. This is going to be great. I can't wait to pick your brain about a lot of the other stuff you remember. But
well, it's ripe. It's ready to be picked.
Would also like to thank Gary for coming in and checking in. And of course, as always, the man, the person who is directly responsible for me having any kind of a show at all. Everybody give it up for Martin. Martin is just that guy. He definitely deserves it. Oh, man, one of these days, we're just going to have to figure out a way of getting together, Martin.
Yeah.
James,
You
check
will
my
have to come
website.
down here.
James is like, would it been right?
I'd come down there, but I'm afraid somebody might not let me back in. But that's a story for another time. Anyway, so
James, you can check these two links to see Ben's works. One is his website, and the other is his Amazon author page. Both links are in the chat. You just have to go a little further, or let me put it again. Yeah.
Ben is just that good. Okay, and as I tell everybody, do yourself a favor. Start out, pick up a copy of The Demon's Apprentice, and just go from there.
Or if you like zombies, Zombie Survival, you'll see all of those on the webpage.
Yep. I think it's all available on Amazon.
All of it's available on Amazon. Yes, I am a slave to the Zon. I think Gambit's done.
we all?
I think Gambit's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been at this for a little over 2 hours, so yeah.
Yeah. So I will hopefully you'll come back next week. You're gonna watch. Basically, you're gonna see what we have to say about 1977 to 1979.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we're gonna cover. It's gonna take 2 hours to cover just those 2 years.
Really, we're covering those years. Nothing happened in those 2 years.
Yeah. Some dude came out with a movie, some about stars, and
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, laser swords and shit. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with TV, Cylons or something. Anyway, we'll figure that out later. Okay, right. So on behalf of everybody here at Pop Culture Minefield, I have been Keith, and you have been watching Morning Coffee with Keith. Have a better day, everybody.
See ya.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Thank you.